Hey everybody, Kate Payne here from Standing Out Online, and welcome to my monthly episode of Coffee with Kate. I'm not having coffee with myself today. I'm having coffee with a very good friend and a fellow eWomen Network member. Her name is Julie Spear. So Julie, welcome. And
Thank you.
unfortunately, the mug I ordered for Julie did not arrive in time, so she's using her favorite Santa Barbara mug because she's from Santa Barbara, California. So welcome, Julie.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you.
So Julie, you are you have your own business called Jules Talent, and
Yes.
we're going to talk a little bit about the play on words on that too, and also that it's a recruiting. Is it right to say an agency company? What do you
A
prefer to
firm
say?
agent. Yes.
Firm, recruiting firm. Okay, so give us a little background about just a little like 1 minute background on what you do and who you help.
Absolutely. So I'm a professional recruiter. I work with management to C-suite staff, employees that are looking to escalate and up level their careers into senior leadership. I really focus on the ambassador, which is the candidate looking for the job, but my client is the one that hires me. I'm a boutique recruiting firm that places direct hire employees for companies looking to grow and scale their business by hiring their department management all the way to their C-suite. So I really take the time to get to know my clients, what they're looking for, what their strategic goals are, and how the hiring process can really help them by achieving those goals with the right people in the place of that role. And so that's what I work with my clients on.
Perfect. And the other little bit about Julie is that she's also the managing director of the Santa Barbara, California eWomen Network chapter. And
Yes.
so I met Julie last year at an eWomen event, and we're both in the platinum level membership of eWomen, and we were at the evening reception, and people were picking like big sisters for the week to help them through the conference, and so I got to be Julie's big sister, her platinum sister. And then we became friends. And
Yes.
the more we talked, the more we realized that between, everybody's watching on the replay. Everybody thinks that all I do is LinkedIn, and the work I do is so much deeper than that. It's leveraging your personal brand. It's how you show up. If you're an entrepreneur, how are you showing up with visibility on online channels? So when Julie and I started talking together, we were realizing this complementary relationship we have, because she knows about best practices for resume, for the whole how you show up, if you're job seeking, especially if you're a manager, a director level, executive level, pivoting in your career, things like that. So we thought it would be fun to come together and put this episode together. So we're going to talk about resume today. We're going to talk a little bit about the recruiting industry today, what things are going on in today's job market, and we're also going to touch on LinkedIn. So let's get started. Okay. All right. So Julie, you sit on the other side of the table, like in an interview setting or on the phone or whatever,
Yes.
on email, right? So you sit on the side of the table that most people don't get to see. And you're evaluating senior talent every day. It's what you do. You're looking at resumes, you're looking at LinkedIn profiles, whatever other resources you're using. So let's start there. So when an executive crosses your desk, what's the difference between someone who looks qualified and someone who actually gets your attention? Because I think that's the crux of this. We want to captivate
Absolutely.
the recruiter's attention, right? Like, because that's what's going to make you look more into them and maybe consider them as a candidate, or at least through that first level of the filter.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, I will scan the resume. I will take a look to make sure that the necessary qualifications are there in terms of longevity in a position, the journey of and the progression of somebody's resume and where they are in their current state and job. Also, I'm really looking for, in addition to education, which is also very important, I'm also looking for something that stands out, something personal, something that sparks the attention. So I read so many resumes, and we're going through so many resumes on a regular, something that helps you stand out, because there are many people that have been working in a career for 15, 20 years. They've escalated to a top level, but they're looking for a change. They may have the same education level, but what makes them different? And that's what I'm looking for. What is unique about them? So something a little bit personal, something that I can actually have a conversation about with them, because being relatable is so important in today's day and age.
Right. So I love that you said that, because when I work with my clients on how to optimize their own LinkedIn personal profiles, right? How can they show up different? I think there's, and just feel free to jump in here or correct me if I'm wrong. I just still think there's a perception, especially if you're looking at the older person, like let's say 45, 50 plus, who's
Mm-hmm.
been in corporate or working for a large organization or even a large, nonprofit. Like we've all been there, done that in certain ways. So we evolve in our career, we mature, and things like that. And then when we think about a change, I think we're still stuck in this mindset of we have to be buttoned up and professional only, and
Mm-hmm.
not let any of our personality into how we show up, whether it's a resume or it's your LinkedIn profile. Do you sense that from candidates?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I think we actually had a shift because of the pandemic. We'll have to bring
Right.
that in. That changed the industries in general and how we do business, how we are interacting both virtually and in person. And we got a little lax too. So
Yeah.
I think there's a happy medium.
Right.
So you always want to, I always say, dress for the part that you're wanting to
Yeah.
get, right? So you really have to think about that. And even on Zoom, or any type of virtual interview or video, you want to put your best foot forward. So
Mhm.
especially when you're applying and interviewing for a senior level role. However, may say a jacket, no tie, a nice collared shirt for a man, women, I always say, simple jewelry, light makeup, but enough, but to really help you look like you really cared enough for that
Right.
interview. I think that's
Right.
the biggest thing, is you want
Right.
them to see and think that you are really wanting this. So this is the position that you are most excited about, and that they can actually feel that and see it.
Great. So you just made me think of something. When I talked about that, we were going to be touching on sort of today's job market, because things are
Mhm.
always evolving, right? There's always things going on that affect how people are applying for jobs or being considered for work or whatever. Like right now, I don't want to get into this right now, but for example, with the emergence of AI and becoming more popular, more accessible for people, there's so many people out there going, "Oh, AI took my job," so I don't want to go down that road. However, it does affect the mindset and the climate of the whole job seeking experience, right? Okay.
Yes.
But so can you just kind of share with me in a snapshot when you as the recruiter, so let's just set the stage here. So companies or organizations hire you, right,
Yes.
to recruit talent for them, correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have a contract with the company, and then you have to find the talent for the various jobs that are open, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So when that process starts and you start, where do you start? Like, where do you start looking for that candidate? Like, what is your process? Like, okay, first thing I do is I go to LinkedIn or whatever it is. Then
Right.
I do this, then I do that. Then when this comes back in, give us a little sense of your journey of just when you're first trying to sort of find that candidate that is going to make their way into a first phone call with you.
Yes. Well, I am a referral based business, and
Right.
I truly believe in building relationships. And we are in a trust recession right now.
Yeah.
And why would a company use a recruiter when they can have all these systems in place and find great talent? For me, it is about really representing the right talent. So I'm always networking, and I have a lot of referrals, and I keep, you know, in touch with certain professionals, knowing that if a position opens up, that they would be available. So I already have people in place that work with me that actually are probably already working. We call those passive candidates.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is constant referrals. I keep people, into my communication. I really check in with them. So that's where I start. Then I go into the job boards, and I start with LinkedIn. It is the best place for professionals. There's other software programs which we're all familiar with. I don't go too into the weeds with those because it could be a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'll
I
bet.
really focus on what my client's looking for, what are the key components that they need to have, and then I begin the search,
Okay.
and then it's just picking up a phone. I
Yeah.
like to have a phone call before I pursue any interviews.
So have you looked at their LinkedIn profile first then? Because you might not necessarily have their resume in hand, right?
Correct. I will look at
Okay.
their LinkedIn profile is incredibly important, and that's what you and I've been discussing, and we're working towards is that, the very first thing when I get a resume from somebody or I see a resume, I'll go straight to their LinkedIn profile. I want to
And
see that.
okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
So when you look at their LinkedIn profile, what are the like walk us through, because this is just your process. I'm not saying this is the process, but this is
Right.
how you do it, right? We're talking about how you do this. So when you land on someone's LinkedIn profile, what are the things that you look at first? What do you look for?
I'm always looking to make sure that their profile picture and their banner is up to date. I mean, if it's just gray, it looks like they haven't really put a lot of effort. I mean, this is like their website, right?
Yeah,
This is a visual. So,
right.
and that's something you're going to speak to later, how important that is to people that are viewing it. So it needs to stand out. Of course, the keywords, their summary of who they are, and some little interest in there. But I'm also just scanning through the work history, the longevity of the work history, how often they've been promoted. I also take a look at the references down below in the education.
The recommendations.
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
recommendations.
Do you is there stuff on a LinkedIn profile that you look for, but you just kind of want to see, like, do they have licenses and certifications? Do they have any awards and honors? I'm not saying it's a make or break, but do you if
I
if
do.
if if people have put other information on there that you don't expect, do you like that? Like the thing that's the differentiator, like you said at the very top of this episode. Like you're
Yes,
looking for something different.
I do think that people, when they have a profile, they should be strategic in what they're putting on there as to the type of, recruiter and job they're actually looking to attract. So some people put too much stuff, right? But
Yep.
if it's pertinent to the career that you're looking to have, I think it's really important because you've worked hard to get those certifications. But there are people that are professional students and have excessive amounts. But anytime you have um, gotten a new certification, add that. Always have your master's. If you're working towards your doctoral, put that on there in progress.
Right.
We do like to see that people are lifelong learners and continuing to educate and elevate.
Okay, that's really good to know. I mean, it looks so you're looking at them going, "Oh, they've got their finger on the pulse. Like they're still trying to better themselves, improve themselves." Let me ask you this. I'm kind of jumping into this a little sooner than I thought, but we're on a roll. So, do you pay attention, for example, to like their volunteer experience, even if they just happen to like coach their kid's soccer team or something?
Yes, because that tells me a lot about who they are as a person, and chances are I might find something in there that I can start a conversation with too,
Right, right.
because I too have been a soccer coach. I've had that on there. I've been active in the Chamber of Commerce, whatever that looks like, it is a conversation piece. But it also shows me that people are able to really give of their time. I think most companies today are creating a culture where they just don't want employees doing the job. They want great people that are doing great things in the communities. And, a lot of companies that I've worked for in the past, they will actually support nonprofits and volunteer work. And so I think that's really important because that actually creates a really great culture in the workplace. And most
Okay.
companies do have that in place.
So, do people typically put some of their volunteer work on their resume, their hard copy resume too?
Yes,
Okay. So that's a
they do.
good thing. So one of the things I have said, so as you know, Julie, and many of you who listen to me know that I do work with veterans in transition who have been in the special operations forces of the military. So whether it's the Navy, the Army, Green Beret, Marines, Air Force, they go through, they work with a nonprofit that I work for called the Honor Foundation. And it's an
Oh, yeah.
executive level kind of, because these people who have been in the special operations careers, whether it's been 5 years or 30 years, have like an elite skill set. And I mean that in the best term. I'm not meaning that like, in a weird way.
Mhm.
They've been trusted with special operations kind of things, classified information, et cetera. So they just have a different level of skills. So as they transition out of the military and then go into their next civilian career, this whole putting themselves out in the public domain, even if it's just a resume or it's their LinkedIn profile and both together, it's very uncomfortable for them. And they're just not sure what to expect in this process. So where I'm going with this though is when you are looking at candidates, so whether they're the average, executive, or maybe they're the veteran like I just described coming at you, what do you usually look at first? Are you looking at the resume first and then you're going over to LinkedIn profile, or can it be different just depending on the circumstances?
It's different on the circumstances because if I've searched them out on LinkedIn, I'm going to look at their profile first, and then I'm going to see if they have a resume attached.
Right.
If they
Okay.
don't, I'm going to instant message them, introduce myself, let them know what I'm looking for and why I've reached out to them, and ask them to send me the resume. So it just depends
Okay.
on where I'm starting.
So you just brought up something I've never heard anybody say, that there's been a long time practice for the last few years on LinkedIn. And I get asked this all the time, especially by the veterans, is people ask me if they should attach their resume. LinkedIn has been saying, don't attach your physical resume, like a PDF of it or a photo of it, because your address, your personal address, your phone number, your email and stuff can be on it. And so I always answer the question, like, don't actually attach your resume, in air quotes, onto your LinkedIn profile, but make sure your resume information matches the information that you put on your LinkedIn profile in the experience section. So are you saying that you actually do want people to attach the resumes?
If they have them, great. I don't think they should actually be the same. They should
Oh, okay.
be
So you're not saying like a
the
photo
LinkedIn,
of their resume.
LinkedIn is
Okay.
a summary. It is a shorter version of what your resume is going to look like. Your resume is going to have a lot more details in there. And you're definitely not, you're going to have more than one resume. So I help people with several resumes, and their resume should not have all their personal information on it if they're posting it on a site. It's a conversation piece. I do like to be able to find things quickly. And if I can't reach somebody, having that resume would be incredibly helpful.
So that's kind
There's
of a
a
good
reason
thing
why
then.
LinkedIn probably doesn't
Sorry.
want it either. I was just going to say LinkedIn wants everything on their page, but I also think that having that resume, it complements it and it helps expedite the process.
So you didn't mean literally attach their
Yeah.
resume on their LinkedIn profile.
You can make an attachment, but a shorter version of your actual full resume.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense? Okay.
I just felt it was almost like a too many public domain seeing that information. So I just guide people to not add it, just make sure that the information matches. And would you also say that because LinkedIn allows you to have extra information, like for example, you can put a little extra little blurb for the volunteer work that you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so which you wouldn't get on a resume because there's just not the room for it, right? Because everybody's trying to keep it short or one page or whatever. So when you do go to someone's LinkedIn profile and you see what I call like a value add, like there's different kinds of things there, or the way they present themselves in their about section, for example, does that appeal to you? And as far as that, like what makes them different?
Yes, it definitely appeals to me. I want to be able to know already who they are, what their interests are, because the companies I work with, there's company culture and I know what they're like. Right. So it helps me make the match much quicker and an alignment.
So what I love about that is you bring up another really good point. Like I think when we all put ourselves out there to be considered for a job thing, we're thinking about ourselves, professional, hard skills. We don't necessarily think about our softer skills, like problem solving, for example, or public speaking, doing presentations. And so I just lost my train of thought.
It happens.
I should have put coffee in my mug today.
Oh, mine's
is that you want to see what else makes them tick, right? Especially when you're considering culture. So what I'm saying is, yes, your skill sets, your talents, your career span of your length, your sage wisdom is important. Your soft skills are something also that you should mention and bring up and sort of spotlight where you can in your narratives. And also think about the culture. I think more and more people, and I think because of the pandemic, like you mentioned, people are not just hiring you for your skill sets. They're also like, are they going to be a good fit in this company? And is my company going to be a good fit for them?
Correct. It has to match both ways.
Right. So play that. Just give us a little bit more insight into why the culture piece is so important.
The culture piece is great for longevity. And although I'm a recruiter and my job is to, help companies hire great talent, I want them to stick. I want it to be long term. And most of the time when I'm working with a client who is hiring me for a role, it's because maybe they've already tried to fill that role themselves and they've had turnover, it hasn't worked. So, I think it's so important that works, that person who is interviewing for the job can really see themselves long term. Most of the time, unless the client says this is a 1-year contract, generally speaking, they're wanting someone to commit for quite some time. Of course, there's no guarantees, but knowing that whether it's a hybrid role or a remote role or in person, like those little details of like, is that going to fit? Does this company offer them, X amount of, a time off and benefits? The culture is so important. And employees always say, I want great culture. And companies are now putting that into their business plans.
Right.
Culture is essential. The leader, the CEO, they carry out that vision, and having that vision and having it trickle through their entire organization is important. So the fact is that you want to have employees that can see themselves long term, that they match with the visions and the values of the company, and that the company will continue to support these people throughout their journey as well. Because everyone's looking for work-life balance.
Right.
It's well, what does that mean to you, right? It's a little bit different to everybody, and that's where those things are discovered and uncovered during an interview process.
Okay, I love that. So let's talk about how how they show up, like about their presence. Like I always say, I help you with your LinkedIn profile presence, and
Yes.
you help people. There's probably people that in the past you have helped people position themselves by way of their resume. Like how do they show up in
Right.
that and using that tool, right? The resume tool. So do you think, because I find this certainly even with the entrepreneurs I work with, I think a lot of us just undersell ourselves. So do you see that leaders or executive, even if they're executives going into C-suite or they're directors, do you think that they're underselling themselves?
Sometimes. And you have to remember, you're your biggest cheerleader. You know what you've accomplished. You know what you're capable of doing. And your goal with the resume is to get that first interview. So you really want to put yourself out there in a way that is really showing your level of leadership and success and knowledge within your industry. And that's going to get you the phone call. That's going to get you that initial first interview. Remembering that, just having a resume that's just looks like a job description or just basic facts, that is really going to get overlooked right now. And there are AI tools, and I don't know if we're even talking about that today, but that'll be part 2. But, people really need to actually realize that they need to put more effort into expressing who they are on paper. Communication is the number one soft skill in the interviewing process, whether you're over the phone, whether you're in person, virtual, on your LinkedIn profile, as well as your resume. And some people will write a resume like they're texting or sending an email. Like, remember, who is your audience? And also know that they're probably going to ask you some questions. And I do go over that with my candidates that I represent. These are the type of questions that my clients are going to want to ask you and know about you. So let's get this on there, and let's already have that answered, so they don't have to come back with 3 questions.
Right.
Get you to the next round. That's how I'm always looking at it.
Okay. All right. So I just want to let the listeners know, and those who are watching on the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And so I just want to just take a little pause here to mention a couple things. So Julie and I have actually been working together in the background to put together a webinar that we're going to have online, open to whoever wants to join, probably sometime in the first couple of weeks in May and early first half of May. We will keep you posted on that. It'll be coming from both of our posts on LinkedIn and Facebook and wherever else you guys see us. And so we're gonna actually do a deep dive on this, and we're gonna talk about the importance of the resume, the whole recruiting process, and your LinkedIn. So what I usually say, and Julie knows that I kind of say this in my world, is when you have your hard copy resume, the resume is not dead. It's still a very important tool. Is that still a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, like Julie said a few moments ago, then she wants to go look at your LinkedIn profile. And is it fair to say, Julie, that when you get to the LinkedIn, you want to learn a little bit more? Like
yes.
you're looking for something a little more juicy, right?
I was just saying that. I was saying juicy, those golden nuggets, that differentiator, anything that's going to spark the next and motivate me to pick up the phone or at least look for their email or phone number and take the next step.
Right. And the other thing I will say to everybody who's listening today, if anybody has your name, even if they went to some kind of a networking thing or that word of mouth and somebody says, hey, I have this colleague. If you're looking for this role at your company, I know somebody. Here's their name. Well, that person is going to go back to their computer or their phone and they're going to type in that person's name into Google and they're going to see what shows up. And so you guys can all do this on your own just to play around. Type your own name into Google. And if you have a LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn profile will show up in search on the first page of Google. In fact, my LinkedIn profile shows up even before my standingoutonline.com website. So that could be where some people get a first impression of you. And I'm speaking to you, the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that that LinkedIn profile is up to date. It's relevant. You are paying attention to it. It's no longer just I think people still think their LinkedIn is like an electronic resume, and it's not. Think of it as your digital handshake. Like this is the place where people are going to get a feel for you. And the recruiter, like Julie, is using a few different tools. She's got different resources that she's using, but she is still paying attention to that resume. She's paying attention to the word of mouth that comes in. She's paying attention to the job boards, and she's absolutely using LinkedIn as a primary tool. So the recruiter is on a different on side of the table. So why do you think, though, when we talk about how leaders, even entrepreneurs, undersell themselves, why do you think they struggle with that? Do you feel like, do they think they're being too braggy, for example, and yet they need to sell themselves? So where's that fine line?
There is a fine line. It's a gray area. And that's why working with a recruiter is great, because I can be that sounding board and we can work through this together. It's like, right. I have received resumes where it's completely over the top and I'm not kidding you, 15 pages. And this person's proud of what they've accomplished and as they should be. So I've had to go and trim that to 2 pages, and also you should always have a 1-pager, but I go the other direction too. I think it's because people have imposter syndrome or self-doubt. Maybe they don't realize that what they have been accomplishing is really important. Mm-hmm. And so again, when I'm talking to them and I'm interviewing, we work on the resume together. I have very often edited and upgraded resumes with my talent because I want to put my best forward, for them and helping them see themselves in a different way. I think it's really important that if you have a career coach or a career recruiter that's actually going to invest a little time with you, like myself, to help you look your best on paper, because it is important.
So you get hired by companies for talent acquisition. Do you also have a way that you can work with people if they hire you to help them with, like, they're the candidate and do you work with people who do that too?
I do. I actually started this last year. I have career coaching sessions. We talk about strategy. We go over the resume and creating the resume. We review the LinkedIn. We practice our interview skills. And then the 4th session, I always leave open to maybe that person's, where are they at in their career search journey? Are they in the interview process? I will go as far as even helping them negotiate an offer and how to accept an offer that works for them.
Okay. So for those of you who are watching live right now, if anybody has a question, feel free to put it in the comments. So whether you're watching on my Facebook, my personal LinkedIn, my YouTube, or my Substack, I'm not sure if I can see the Substack comments. That's something my producer, Jim, might have up his sleeve. I'm not sure. But anyway, if you have any questions for Julie or for me, please feel free to put those in the comments and we're happy to get your question answered. Now, if you're watching on the replay, you can still ask a question. Just tag me or Julie or both of us, and we will see the notification and we will reply to your question on the replay. Okay. So Julie, go ahead.
I have a question. I wanted to follow up on what you mentioned about going to Google and your LinkedIn comes up before your actual website. That's a really important thing that we haven't really talked about, but it's so true. That is actually something I always do. Everyone should go and Google themselves and literally see what's showing up, because you may not know what is coming up first and what's in there. And we all have other socials and they're more personal. Employers will look at that. So will recruiters. So keep that in mind. I just want to put that out there to people as a tip. Like, check it out, and go back and remove some of it if you do not want it to be seen.
It's an excellent point, especially with younger candidates. who maybe,
Yes.
in college had been, being college students like we all were. I mean, thank God when I was in college, there was no social media.
Right.
But so think about that, because you know what? I mean, even I do a lot of volunteer work with
Hmm.
high school and college groups about how to use LinkedIn. So just think about that. How you've shown up in other places could show up on Google, and you want to see. You mentioned you can fix that. How do people go about if they want to take something, like if they want to control their online reputation and how they show up in Google, and there's something that they don't want? Is there a way to figure out how to deal with that?
Whatever that platform will be, let's just say Facebook, but probably Instagram most likely.
Yeah.
You go in and just clean up your feed, the things that you
Okay.
posted. Some of the things may still show up. That's the next level of removal. But I know it's really easy to clutter up your Instagram feed and not see what's actually still on your page.
Right.
Just remove some of that, or honestly, start a new one, depending on where
Yeah.
you are in your life.
There you
It's
go.
the next chapter. You should not,
Right.
if you're out of college, let's get that cleaned up and let's act like a professional
Right.
and keep it
Let's grow
keep
up.
it keep it clean.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing to think about. The other thing is, if you were going to be commenting, and people that you're selecting to be your contacts, you are the people that you surround yourself with, right? So
Right.
that's really important too. And I think you talk about it with LinkedIn too, intentionally reaching out to people that you want to be connected with and
Right.
accepting those LinkedIn requests of people that you want to be connected with. I mean,
Be
you don't just
discerning.
discerning, great word. Yes.
Yep. Yep. Be discerning about who you connect with. Just because people invite you to connect, you don't have to feel obligated to accept. Use your own little personal filter system. Like, is this somebody who's in an industry I'm interested? Is this somebody whose topics are just something I'm interested because it's the kind of work I want to do? Think about who those people are. Obviously, you connect with the people that are sort of in your inner circle, but then start to think about over time how you can expand that circle.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
mean, I'll give you a quick example. I've got over 8,000 connections on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn since 2006, and it was started in 2003. So some people look at me and go, why doesn't she have more? Because I've been very intentional and discerning about who I want to connect with. And, in this day and age, we get so many people wanting to connect with us on LinkedIn who are trying to pitch us something, and they haven't even built a relationship with us in any way, shape, or form. And those are people that sometimes I'll accept. But then if they start slamming me with 5 pitches a day, I literally go in and I disconnect with them
Boom.
because I
Bye-bye.
don't want them anymore. I don't want them in my world. So I've become even more discerning with who I choose to connect with. So, all right. So let's talk about like today's market a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
As we start to, get into some other aspects here. So the reality of today's job market for someone at the executive level who hasn't looked for a role in, let's say, 5, 10, maybe even 15 years,
Mhm.
what feels different about today's market that they need to understand?
They need to understand that the way that they received their jobs previously is different now. It is very humbling. And when I am meeting with these professionals that are faced with a career change and a opportunity to look for new work, they usually come to me frustrated. Julie, I used to just word of mouth. I just got the job. I was able to apply here. I would walk in here. That is just not how they do it. So, everything is online and it's overwhelming. And so they look at the numbers. I'm applying to 200 jobs. They'll have a spreadsheet for me. These are all the jobs I applied for. They will have, the LinkedIn job boards all filled with jobs that they're looking for. It's saturated. They'll say I applied and there's like 500 people that applied within 24 hours. It's just a lot of overwhelm.
Right.
And so that's where I come in, and that's also where I help people with their job search. Is they should be strategic. If you're just throwing spaghetti to the wall and you're just applying for all these jobs, you're not going to get the job that you really want.
Right.
It is really an opportunity for them to know that, one, they're not alone, and two, it's a different way of getting work. And like you mentioned, building relationships. So it's not just sending up resumes and quantity, it is quality. And I do believe that
Absolutely.
that's the most important thing right now, is that we are flooding the programs, the systems right now with so many people looking for work. That's another story, but it is very difficult with a lot of the layoffs that we've had in some of our industries. Entertainment took a hit. I'm in California, so the entertainment world, a lot's happening now with that. Technology is always evolving, and they're laying off and then they're hiring. And, a lot of jobs now are contract roles. Another thing is it's a mindset.
Right.
Your next role may be a 2-year role.
Yeah.
It may not be the 5-10 years like we used to have when we
Right.
got out of college, right? That
Right.
was the thing. You go to college, you start your career, you work your way up the ladder, you stay over there for 20, 25 years, and you're set.
Right.
That is not the case.
Nope. That is definitely a big change. I mean, I graduated from college in 1989. I went to college in New York City, and I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. And then I realized I still wanted to be in journalism, but I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I wanted to be behind it, right? So, but I was raised like, get the job and stay put, and that's just not real. People don't want to stay put,
No.
because of technology, because of mobility, meaning like we can move here and there. I mean, there's just things are just easier in that sense. Not everybody wants to stay in the same role. They're like, I'm going to go to this job and I'm going to stay there for 2 or 3 years to learn X skill. Then from there, I want to go to this, like there's more intention behind someone's quote unquote career path. Right. So, I think it's interesting, and I actually think it's kind of exciting. I mean, I certainly have been one. If you were to just like look at my resume, I've worked for corporate, I've worked for nonprofit. Then I've put my own shingle out. Then I went back to corporate. Then I put my own shingle out. And so then I'm on the 3rd iteration of my own business. That's just my journey. However, that's also how I learned a lot of various skill sets that I now bring to the work I do with my clients. Right. So you build your expertise. So I think what I'm trying to say here, Julie, and feel free to pop in, like, don't beat yourself up if you're moving around just because someone said you should go to that one place and stay for a long time. I think that's another, an important shift. What do you think?
It is. Sometimes you may have that short-term interim job is what I call it. But and I've had it myself actually in a different industry. That is maybe the stepping stone for the next career you're going to have or job that's going to get you there. But the most important thing is that you're still working. We haven't really talked about gaps in resumes, and that's really something that I assume most people know, but they probably don't. Some people are like, oh, well, I wasn't working for a year. Well, what were you doing for a year? I want to know what that is. So I do think it's important that people take the opportunity to continue working on their skills, taking on roles that complement their work, try new things too. And that's okay. You learn what you don't want to do by working in certain fields or jobs that you think you might want. Like you wanted to be in broadcasting. So did I.
Yeah.
I went down a completely different journey after college.
Yeah.
And before becoming a recruiter, I was in advertising. So, people have different shifts. We evolve and other opportunities present itself. But every job that I've had in the course of my, working careers, I have always felt that I've taken away some really great skills that take me to the next job. And when I'm interviewing, I ask those questions from this role at this place. What were the skill sets that you took away from that? How did you build upon that in your next role? It's a journey. The resume is a journey and a path, and it's not a straight line.
And I think it's becoming more acceptable, right? For hiring people who are in the hiring roles. I think that they take into account what our market or what our lives are like today. Right. So that's just a really important, I think it's really important. I think when you talk about the gap in the resume, one of the things I love that LinkedIn did within the last couple years, maybe not quite, they've actually added. So like, where you can go into LinkedIn and add a position, you click on the little plus sign and add your position. There's also another option that says add career break. So that if you had a gap, so if you had a gap in your world, you can now show that on LinkedIn. So perhaps you've been working in a corporate job or wherever, and your aging mother got sick and you had to take care of that person for 6 months or a year or whatever. So you got that little place to kind of put in that gap and why it happened. And you can write a little blurb about it so that if someone's looking, because I think everybody in this day and age is like, stuff happens and in life, and so being able to show that gap, especially by way of your LinkedIn profile, can you show a gap? Is there a best practice for showing a gap on a hard copy resume?
Yeah, you just take a line item, and I've had people do this, especially if it was a maternity leave or a possibly a just a travel year.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I guess in college, what they call it the gap year.
Gap
Literally,
year.
that's
Yeah,
what
they
they
do call
call
it the
it.
gap year. Right.
It's
Exactly.
literally called the gap year. You know, traveled the world. You know, went to took a year and studied abroad. You know, like yeah, that explains what you're doing um, in a nutshell. And more conversations can be had, but I think again that's something that shows the kind of person you are.
It
You
does.
know, you're
That's what I love about that. Like, don't be afraid to share some of these things. I don't think we're as buttoned up as what I think people still perceive we need to be, especially if you're an older candidate.
correct.
So, all right. So as we start to wind down here, I want to just talk about like how we're going to go deeper in this webinar. So Julie and I are going to be putting information out in the next couple weeks about a webinar that we're going to hold for people who are in this position, like you want to go deeper. So, so we're going to go deeper into like, we're each going to give like 3 takeaways that you can really put to use if you're looking into get into a director level role or a managerial role or a C-level role, right? If you are a higher, I don't want to say higher level candidate, but if you're, this isn't just a regular, like I'm trying to get a job just to get a job, right?
Yeah,
We're talking about people who are,
career,
we're talking about career.
growth, career placement. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Placement. It's a good word.
Mhm.
So that's what we're going to be focusing on. So please pay attention to our content going forward. And, and I'm really looking forward to our deeper dive session. I think it's going to really help a lot of people get some serious help with what they're doing. Because I also do think, and this is one of the things I will go into more deeply, is the AI component. So many
Yeah.
people are using AI that there's a lot of people that just get frustrated because they're not getting work and they're going, oh, AI must have taken over my job. Now, what I want to invite people to think about is that maybe there's certain things AI can do that takes away from a role, but you still need human beings to
Yes.
translate what you get from AI. Like you still need human people to help you with various jobs and things like that. I don't think we're going to lose a lot of jobs to AI like the way people think. I think that yes, but it's also whenever something like that happens, it creates an opportunity for you to stop and go, okay, if AI is doing an aspect of my job, how can I take the skill sets I have and do a little bit of a pivot or a shift to say,
Hmm.
you know what, though, these are the skills I have. I need to play up these skills and maybe I need to be in that kind of a role. So it's going to create an opportunity for you to shift something to still keep work, but maybe you're just shifting the job.
AI is helping us do our jobs more efficiently,
Yep.
more quickly. We're able to do different tasks and move on. It allows us to do the other things that we want to do. So AI is really just a tool, as we know that, and learning it and not being afraid of it and not shifting your mindset of like, oh my gosh, it's going to replace me. It's like, oh my
Right.
gosh, you learn as much, again, lifelong learning. Learn how AI is going to help you do your job or help you in this career. And if you know you're on that list, and I do have a list of jobs that are going away, I can help with that. But we're going to find the job that you want next. Okay, so that job may be obsolete. This is not any different. For decades and centuries, jobs have evolved through
Yeah.
innovation. This
New
is just
tools come
another.
along.
Yep.
Yes. And that evolves the job. And
Yes.
that's technology.
And if
That's
you want to be
evolution. That's
relevant
growth.
and you want to be able to stay ahead of the game in your career, then continuous learning is such an important part of
Exactly.
growth. And then that's what executive leaders do. They never
Right.
stop learning.
Right.
They realize they don't know everything, and they continue to learn and lean on those that may be experts in their areas. I mean, coaches have coaches, right?
Right. Exactly. Every coach,
It's
I mean, famous athletes all have
yes,
coaches. Just because they're a gold winning, medal winning athlete, they didn't do it all by themselves. They had coaches to
exactly.
help them get there. I wouldn't be where I am in my business with standing out online if I hadn't hired um, coaches along the way either, right? Like, so, all right. So here's the closing question. Then we're going to talk about how people can get in touch with you and everything. So if someone listening today or on the
Okay.
replay realizes their resume and LinkedIn aren't aligned with how they want to be seen or positioned, what's the first thing you'd tell them to focus on?
First thing. That is a very good question. If they're
All right,
not
wait,
aligned.
if it makes it, what are the first two things?
Okay. Well, so I'm going to always say start with your resume first because people are sending out their resumes quickly.
Yes.
I'm going to say,
And resumes are required, right?
They are definitely a requirement. It's a basic necessity and a requirement. So your resume, because I like to use my LinkedIn based off of my resume, right? So
Right.
I think the resume is the blueprint. Let's look at it that way. That
I
makes
love
sense,
that.
right? Yeah, there you go. So we got, you think that, that's going to get you reorganized. And then you immediately go to your LinkedIn and make sure that you've got that graded and then you haven't missed any points.
Yep.
And then the next step would be to speak to someone like myself to say, okay, what more should I add? Maybe they're missing something, but those are next steps. But the first two would be really knowing exactly what you're looking for in a career too, because it isn't just your resume, it's gearing that resume towards the job you also are looking to apply for at that time. So your resume is evolving and you will have more than one.
Right. Christy's joining us. We had Esta earlier, Asta McIntyre, saying that she loved the point you make. Christy saying, thank you, Julie, for sharing your expertise. This is very helpful. Thanks for hopping in here, Christy.
Thank you.
All right. So, Julie, if people want to get on a call with you or follow you or whatever, please give us the different ways that they can connect with you.
Well, you can go straight to my LinkedIn because I think you put that up on the screen. There you go. Love that.
So just for people who are listening on the audio version, it's linkedin.com/in/Julie C, the letter C, Spear, SPEAR.
Thank you.
Okay. So on LinkedIn, yes.
And then the next best way is my website, which is julestalent.com. And that actually you could go there as a job seeker or a business employer. So there are two different tabs and you're able to, if you're a job seeker, you can upload your resume right to my website. You can also learn all about me and what I do. And there's some frequently asked questions. And then for companies that want to have a complimentary session with me, just to kind of talk about my services and get to know each other, they too can schedule a call with me right there on the website.
And that's Jules Talent. I'll spell it for you. It's JEWELS talent.com. So it's like jewelry. So that actually leads me into, so Julie Spear, who's my guest and friend, also her close friends call her Jules. So when she named her business, it was kind of twofold. It was a little play on words for jewels, but also to help you find the hidden jewel to hire in your organization, right? Did I say that?
That is correctly? Yes.
Okay. All right. I love that. All right.
Yes,
and then
comment on that, and I would say that that's a perfect example of how it's a conversation piece, because I have people come, why would you, why would you? And that's important because for me, when you started calling me Jules, I was like, now you know why this is my name of my company. Yep. It's who I am.
Yep. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us today. And I'm really looking forward for you and I to continue to collaborate to put the finishing touches on this webinar that we're gonna put out there. And we will be putting out all kinds of promotion, and we'll have a landing page for registration information and all of that. And that'll be sometime in the first half of May. We had a date for in 2 weeks. But life happened and we realized we needed to, we were getting such juicy nuggets. We wanted more time to really get this in place. And then we'll set the date and we'll put out some information on that. So please follow me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Kate Payne, PAINE. And Julie, of course, as you know, Julie C. Spear on LinkedIn, her website, julestalent.com, and my website, standingoutonline.com. And Julie, please stay online and we'll go back into the green room just to debrief. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for watching on the replay. If anybody has any questions in the comments section, wherever you're seeing this on the replay, please feel free to tag us and ask a question. And if we'll get notified and then we can answer your question in the comments section. So thank you everybody here for being here. Julie, thank you for having coffee with me in your Santa Barbara mug. I guess you know what's going to happen? Your Coffee with Kate mug is going to show up today.
It will, and I will call you.
So cheers. All right. Thanks, everybody. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Can't wait till the webinar.